Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the She.Must.Knit podcast. My name is Erin and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. We had a really fun week. It was Halloween this week, so there was lots of preparation for that. Avery was very excited. I actually had to do a little bit of crafting to get her costume ready, so I have some pictures to share of that. And then otherwise, I was just working on my projects, and I feel like I had a really productive week. So what do I have for you today? I have progress on a project that I have been working on. I have a finished project. I have some spinning. I have some sewing. And then yeah, I'm going to do my monthly goals recap at the end. So what my goals were for October and did I meet them? I did not meet all of them, but that's okay. And then what my goals are for November. And yeah, November is going to be... it's going to be a month because I have things to catch up on, and I know you know what those are. So let's get started. I am going to first start with a sip of my tea. I've got my kettle corn tea again from Seven Sisters Tea. I really enjoy this one. When I eventually do another order with them, I will definitely be reordering this one. So that's my kettle corn tea. It's very tasty. And then before I get into everything, I want to announce this month's winner. So every month I pull a winner from a combination of all the comments on all my videos and then any purchases made in my on my website. So for the given month, any comments made during that month and any orders placed during that month, I'll get an entry, and then I do a drawing, and then someone wins a $20 coupon to use in my shop. So the winner for October is Sylvia1002, and this was a web comment. And Sylvia, I know you comment on every single video of mine, and I so appreciate it. So congratulations, you are the winner this month. You can contact me, I know you know how, and then we'll get that set up. So let's get started on what I've been working on. The first thing I'm going to show you is the one project, like the one knitting project that I've been working on other than the thing that I finished, because I put a lot of time into that. I wanted to get it done. It is done. But other than that, I was working on this. And this is my Little Miss Margo poncho. I am so enjoying this now that I have it fixed. If you remember last week, I was talking about how before that I had made a mistake. This is the back piece. I have the front piece done. I had made a mistake in this whole section here of the stitch pattern. I was doing it wrong. And several episodes ago, I had asked you guys, what do you think I should do? Should I just keep going? It's a back piece, you know, the front and back will be different, but whatever. Or should I fix it? And ultimately, I decided to try and fix it. I thought originally I was going to have to rip this entire thing out and restart, which is why it kind of delayed the project for me. But last week I decided just to sit down and try and drop those stitches down and work back up and fix them that way. And that totally worked. And so this is where I was after I fixed the stitch, all the stitches, and then this is how much I have put on this week. And it is going so nicely again. I really do enjoy this stitch pattern. It looks like there's a whole bunch of cables, but it's all just slip stitches and yarn over. So it's a really, really pleasant pattern to knit. It's a very easy pattern to knit. You're basically just doing these series of stitches, which you can totally memorize. I have not had to look at the pattern. You just do this for the whole, almost the whole length of the piece, and then once you get to the top, this is the front piece. Once you get to the top, there's a little bit of neck shaping and then a little bit of short rows on the shoulder. Very, very simple, just to give the shoulders a little bit of a slope. So these two pieces are going to be almost exactly the same. The back piece is just a little bit longer than the front piece to give the hem kind of like a high-low effect. But then other than that, it's just going to be picking up on the edges and doing some ribbing and then putting some buttons on. I picked out some bright purple buttons that I will be using, and then this will be done. So I am so happy that I am back on this project. I am moving along. I am happy with how it's going. I'm enjoying it again. and I'm really hoping to now get this done. I'm hoping this will be the next thing that I can kind of whip through and get done. Now, if you did not, I haven't talked about this other than talking about it last week. I haven't talked about it in several weeks. So if you're wondering why the colors are so different, I am using a yarn that Avery got me for my birthday, and it is a Red Heart. It's the Red Heart Super Saver ombre yarn, and so it's kind of a gradient yarn. And that's one of the reasons I picked this particular project, because with there being a very just distinct back piece and front piece, I thought the gradient wouldn't get disturbed too much, and I'm hoping it will still kind of look okay, considering I know the back piece is so much lighter than the front piece, but looking at what's left in the skein, it is starting to go back to those darker colors, and I'm pretty sure the ribbing, the side ribbing, will be done in the darker colors, so hopefully we'll just kind of pull it all together. And you know what, regardless, she's not going to care. It is pink, and pink is her favorite color, and this is definitely pink. The only thing that I forgot to mention in last episode is the gauge. So I am doing something a little bit differently with the gauge, because the yarn that I am using for this pattern is a worsted weight yarn, and the original pattern calls for a chunky / bulky weight yarn, and originally I had considered doubling this, but I decided not to do that. I wanted to keep the gradient intact, and I didn't want to have to try and match ends, but what I am doing is I am just following a different size. So Avery is almost 7, she'll be 7 next month, and I am following the largest size in the pattern, which is a 10-12, which is giving me, with the gauge of this yarn, the correct width to fit her. And it's a poncho, so the fitting is very flexible, so I'm not too worried about the fit, but that is what I'm doing. I am doing the largest size with a smaller weight yarn. So next, that is the project I've been working on. Next, let's do the project that I finished. So you saw this. Had I started? I think I had. I think I had started last week. This is the cowl that I was making for Avery as part of her new winter set. I explained before that 2 years ago I made her a cowl, a nice double-lined cowl, and it was just getting too small for her. It wasn't covering her face and her neck and chest at the same time, which is what I wanted. And so I cast on another one using the same pattern, but I was making a bigger size. So the original inspiration for this pattern, when I've made them before, because usually I've done them with like a little mustache on them, was the Incognito pattern from Knitty. However, it's basically been modified. It's nothing like that pattern anymore, because like I'm not even using the mustache on this, so I didn't even link to that pattern, but I used the modification. So when originally I was doing those Incognito cowls, I used a modification that another Ravelry member had posted on her project page that made it a complete double lined cowl. The original pattern only had a brim at the top of the cowl and the bottom. The center was just single knit. So this member had modified it to do double lined, and I had used that modification for the past 4 or 5 cowls that I had made based on Incognito with the mustache. But now I'm using that modification just as the cowl, the basis of this cowl alone. So this is it. It is done, and it is big. I could wear this, but it is fine because she can just snuggle right up into it. So the 2 yarns that I use, the one on the outside with the striping is a Premier Yarns Sweet Roll. And this is actually, both of these yarns are labeled as a worsted weight, but this one ended up being a little thicker than the interior, and so I had to adjust something, and I will explain that in a minute. So this is the outside, it's the Sweet Roll, it's 100% acrylic, and then the interior, you can see how there's the purple interior, is from Willow Yarns, and it is the Willow Daily, and this is a superwash wool. So it's not quite as soft as this, but it is still plenty soft. And what you do, I explained this in the last episode, and also I took some pictures as I was working on this so that you could kind of see the process. So I have a picture of it once it was completely knit and how it looked like with the 2 layers before they had been joined. And then I also took a picture of as I was joining it, and I have notes on the project page for this in case you were curious about how you join it, because basically what you're doing is you're starting with this color here, and first you do a provisional cast on, and my preferred method is with the crochet hook. I find it the easiest, and it's also the easiest for me to unravel. If you have ever had problems with the provisional cast on using a crochet hook, the key is that the stitches that you're picking up through the chain, you do through the little bump on the back side of the V. So as long as you're picking up through that bump and not going through any part of the V's on top, if you look at a crochet chain, you'll understand more about what I'm saying. But as long as you pick up through the bump, it unravels super easily. And then yeah, it was very easy to graft once I got to that point. So you start with your contrast color, you do 10 rows, and then you do a picot row, so that's your yarn overs knits two together, that gives you this edge here, and you switch to, so before you do the picot row, you switch to your main color. Do your picot row, do your main color for however many rows you want your cowl to be tall, do another picot row, switch back to your contrast color, and then in theory you're supposed to do the same amount of rows for the inside of the cowl as the outside. However, this yarn ended up being just a little bit thicker than the purple inside, so what I had to do is I just did a quick row gauge, how many rows I was getting per inch, and I did the same for the purple inside, and then I calculated, I think once I had finished this side, I measured it, and it was like 10.5 inches. So I used the row gauge with this yarn to calculate how many rows I would need to get the same 10.5 inches, and it just ended up being like 10 more rows than this one here. So very simple. And then once it was done, you just kind of fold everything in on itself and you do the grafting. So the row, you can kind of see that right here, it's just a little uneven, like it's not quite as smooth as the rest of the knitting. That's where I did my grafting. And then to do the grafting, I find the easiest way is to pull out some of the provisional cast on, but only pull out like 10 or so stitches. Put those stitches on a double pointed needle, and then graft off of that double pointed needle until I only have one stitch left, and then pull out some more stitches from the provisional cast on onto the double pointed needle, graft those stitches, and just kind of do it in stages all around so that you don't have to worry about trying to get those original stitches on another needle to do the grafting. So I found that the easiest way. It took about an evening, I think. Is that what I worked on when they were trick-or-treating? I think that's what I worked on when they were trick-or-treating. So it took about 2 hours or so to do the grafting, but it is done. And she is not wearing it at school today. She's still wearing her old cowl, but I did manage to get her to let me take a picture or two of her before she went off to school. So I will pop those in so that you can see how it looks on her. And yeah, she can pull it like right up to her little eyeballs, and then it's also big enough that she can kind of pull it over her ears, and it's almost like a hood, like it keeps the back of her head and her ears and her face, like she can just burrow into this like a little mole. So yeah, this is all set. And then the only thing I have left to do now, I had mentioned before that I wanted to make her a new winter set. I have leftovers of the purple that I used for the inside. I originally had bought this yarn to make her a garment when she was younger, so I still have a fair bit of this left. I think I have 2 or 3 more balls of this. So what I'm thinking of doing is doubling this and using it to make a hat to go with the cowl that I will also fleece line. So I'm going to be using the rest of this. That's going to be a project that probably gets cast on fairly soon. I really do have some things I need to work on, like yeah, Santa pillows. But I do want to get that hat done. She does have hats, so I'm not worried about her not having an appropriate hat as the weather gets colder, but I do want to get this set done. So that's going to be coming up. Other than that, this is all the yarn that I had left over from the outside of the cowl. I've divided it. It was all one yarn, but when I was putting the little nose and whiskers on, I wanted to use the pink, and I had to get to the pink, so I decided just to separate them into their colors, and that way, you know, I can use them as scraps in my worsted scrap bin. So that's my finished knitting project. I'm so happy to get that done. It took me about 6 days, but it really is a quick pattern, and I think it's a really, really practical item. It's a really nice, warm, practical item, especially for kids, but I might want one too. We'll have to see. I have other things I need to do, right? Right. So let's get into the little bit of crafting that I did, some sewing, and then we'll do my handspun update, and then we'll do monthly goal updates. So the little bit of crafting. I felt like doing a little bit of sewing this week, and this is a project that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've had this fabric kind of just sitting around waiting to do something. It's fabric, but it's like, it was originally something. So Avery wears leggings pretty much 90% of the time. We have a nice little collection of them, and they're comfortable, and she likes them, and she can run around, and they have cute prints. But what happens with leggings when this is what is left of these leggings. Basically, you have kids, they run around, they fall, they ruin their clothes, right? Right. So these are a pair of leggings that she had that she fell at the park. I think it was at the park. And she basically totally shredded. She shredded the knees, like shredded. No sewing, no help, shredded. But I hate throwing out clothing. Like, I really try and donate 99% of her clothing, and if not donate, I will find, I have some friends who have girls who are younger than her, and I will pass things down if they are in nice condition. I hate throwing out textiles. I hate it. So what I was going to do, I kind of measured our, based on what was still left of the good parts on the leggings, I was able to make some leggings for one of her dolls. So at least I feel like I got some use out of it. And so we have little Avery here, and I made her some leggings. This is the easiest pattern. If you have a machine, you could probably do this hand sewing as well because they're not that big. But if you have a machine and some, some knit fabric, either from worn out clothing or otherwise, you can do these like lickety split. Like, they are so quick. The pattern that I found is from Artsy Fartsy Mama, and I'll link it below. But this is the pattern piece. Like, this is all you need, and you just have to cut, I think, 2 of these on the fold, so 2 pieces of this, and then you do like 3 seams maybe? Like 3 seams, and then you have some leggings. She suggests in the pattern to cut the pieces so that the bottom of the pattern piece is on the original hem of whatever you're using, so that you don't have to make a hem. But I actually don't mind doing a little hem, so I chose to do a little hem, but then made sure that the top of the pattern piece was on the waistband of the leggings, because I hate putting in elastic. I would rather do a tiny little hem than to put in elastic. So her little leggings, and these ended up being quite high, but that's okay. Her little, oh my goodness, these are quite high-waisted pants. But that's all right. A lot of doll leggings, I don't know why they make them so short, but they fall off the backs of them. So these will not fall off. So the waistband of the little leggings is the original waistband of Avery's leggings. So that just made it an even quicker project, because I did not have to worry about inserting any elastic. So yeah, that was another crafty project. I made some leggings. If you have kids or grandkids with 18-inch dolls, it's just a super quick pattern to whip up to make them some clothes. And then there's lots of knitting patterns too. You could make that as a little gift. Make a little knitted sweater and some little leggings, and boom, gift. And gift season is upon us. So that was my first crafty project this week. And then the other things that I was working on were related to Avery's Halloween costume, and she wanted to be a tooth fairy this year, which is very appropriate since she's, oh my goodness, the child has lost so many teeth this year. I think she's on number 8, and some of her friends have just lost their first or second tooth. So she's been keeping that tooth fairy busy, and so she wanted to be the tooth fairy. And I just had to do some basic crafting. At one point, we thought it was going to be absolutely pouring rain for trick-or-treating, and I thought I was going to have to make her like a full-on like fleece thing to wear on her head to keep her as warm and dry as possible. And I had started that, and then it looked like the forecast, it was going to be clear. Like, it rained all day, but it was going to be clear at night, so I kind of abandoned that because I was like, oh, that was a lot of work, and if I didn't have to do it, I didn't have to do it. So what I opted for instead was making her a fleece ear, like a headband, so at least her ears would be warm, because when you're outside for a few hours, it gets chilly. And then to make that kind of appropriate, tooth fairy appropriate. So just with all my little stash, this is why it's so nice to have like craft stashes. I was able to find some pink fleece, and so I sewed that into a tube to make a little headband. And then I had this really pretty, I don't know why I bought this originally. Maybe I was going to make her a dress or something and use it as the waistband, but I had this super sparkly fabric trim in my stash, and it was the absolute perfect length to double. So it's two pieces, so this is the trim and then this is another part of the trim, and I sewed it down the middle and along the edges, but it was the perfect length to go all the way around the headband. So I made her a super sparkly headband, and then I popped a tooth on there so that, you know, at least looks somewhat like it would be for a tooth fairy. And this is just made out of polymer clay, and I baked that. I gave it a little bit of little glitter glaze with some nail polish, and boom, she had a tooth fairy headband. And then the only other thing I had to do was for her wand, we went to the dollar store, we found a mermaid wand, and to make it tooth fairy appropriate, I made like a little slip cover so that it was a tooth. But yeah, she wanted it to be able, she didn't want anything permanently done because she wants to keep this. I'll see if you can see it. See the shell there? Yeah, so it's a mermaid wand, and she wanted to have that back as like intact. So I thought, oh, I'll just make a little slip cover, and then after Halloween, I'll just cut it off. And yeah, so that's made out of fleece as well. Fleece is such a great craft fabric because you can cut it, you can stitch it, it doesn't unravel, you can basically make it do whatever you want it to do. And then especially for like outdoorsy stuff, it's so warm. So warm. So yeah, I love having a fleece stash of lots of different colors. So yeah, that was all my extra little crafting. And then the only thing I have left before we get to my goals update is my hand spun. So I had been working on, I had mentioned before that my current spinning project is to spin the fiber that I had picked out to make Avery a rainbow dash inspired sweater. I will be making this sweater next year as part of my 2019 bingo card, but I wanted to at least get the yarn spun up this year. So my goal for October was just to spin one of the shades. I bought 2 shades of blue with the intention of 2-plying them together to give kind of a nice marled look, and I only wanted to spin up one of those shades of blue. Well, not only did I end up spinning up the one shade, I ended up spinning the second shade of blue, and I was able to ply it this month. So I have finished the blue yarn for her rainbow dash sweater, and I am pretty happy with how it turned out. I really like how the color looks. It's very subtle, but there are 2 shades there. It probably won't pick up on camera, but there is a slightly more blue shade and then a slightly more green shade, and together I think it makes a really, really pretty color. I find with the way that this fiber is prepped, it's kind of like, it's just a merino, but it's a very soft, it's not in a braid, it's like in a long strip. And when I have spun this type of prep before, I do find it a little difficult to maintain a really, really even single. And I could tell while spinning it, there are definitely, you can see like right there, there are definitely some thicker parts and some thinner parts. Overall, it's pretty even. I'd say it's probably about a worsted to Aran weight. Overall, it is pretty even, but there are definitely some thicker and thinner parts. But that'll be okay. That will just give the finished sweater some character. So I had to do 2 skeins because it was just too much to have on one bobbin. And you know what? I wouldn't be able to wind it on my ball winder anyway, so that's fine. This one is about 150 grams, and this, no, not 50 grams. Anyway, I don't remember, but I have about 450 yards total. So I'm going to have to be looking at patterns. I still have to do the next project, or the next part of this that I need to spin. And I forgot to grab it, but I'll show it next week. Is I bought a little pack of rainbow little mini pieces of fiber, so in the rainbow colors, and I want to spin that up for the sleeves. So the blue is going to be the body of the sweater, and then the rainbow will be on the sleeves. I just have to spin that. I'll have to see what the yardage is that I get from the rainbow, and if with combined with the 450 yards that I have of this, if it's going to be enough for a sweater or if I'm going to have to pick up some more of that fiber. And luckily, I don't know if I can order it online, but even if I have to wait till the new year, I know the vendor. I bought it at one of the shows from this year, and I've seen that vendor at several shows, and the dyes don't change too much, so I should be able to get one of the blues maybe for the ribbing or something. So, but I'm happy that I at least have the blue part done, and so now I get to do the fun part, the rainbows, and then yeah, I'll put that aside for next year, and that will be one of my 2019 projects. So next I have my goals update for the month of October. I took a nice little picture of all the projects that I completed for this month, and let's just go over what I wanted to get done for October and what I ended up finishing. So my first goal for October was to just work on the Girona top, and if you'll remember from last week, I finished the Girona top, so I am so happy with that. That is one project that is off the needles and done. My second goal was to finish my DVD socks for October because I want to make it to the end of the year for that challenge, and I did. The third was to finish the first of my Tweety Brother socks, and I did complete that. Fourth was to finish Miss Margo. I think I would have finished that if I hadn't had run into that snafu with the stitches, but I am back on track, and so I'm pretty confident I'll be able to finish that shortly. Fifth was to start a new winter set for Avery. I have done that. It is started. And this is where it all starts to go downhill. Sixth was, actually no, I take that back. Next, it starts to go downhill. Sixth was to finish the first half of the fiber. I did that. I finished all the fiber, so that was good. Eighth, finish all the hippo pieces. I did not even touch the hippo pieces. The hippo project has not even moved from my shelf. So I am getting behind on that project if I want to finish it for Christmas. 8 was finish 2 Santa charts on my Santa pillows. I did not even touch my Santa pillows. So like again, we are getting really behind on that project. I'm getting a little worried. And then 9 was to finish my double line knits. I didn't even touch those. I did not even touch those. So I'm not too worried about those. I mean, those are for me. If I have them, I have them. If I don't, I don't. But I did want to finish them because the weather's getting kind of cold. So November goals. I have tried to keep my November goals list much shorter than October because A, there are 2 projects on there that need a lot of work, and B, I want to be able to finish some of these goals. So my goals for November are going to be to finish Little Miss Margo. I am so close. I don't want to put it aside and then have it carry into next year. So I just want to finish that. The second is to finish my November DVD socks. I'm not too worried about finishing those. 3, finish all the hippo pieces. We need to get that hippo done. 4, finish the knitting part on my Santa pillows. So that doesn't mean to finish the pillows in their entirety, but I do want to finish the knitting. So after I finish the whole tube of the knitting, I need to steek it and then create a fabric backing and then put a pillow form in. So for November, I just want to finish the knitting and then I can worry about the assembly in December. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but that is going to be my goal. And you guys, I'm looking you in the eyes. I need to work on those pillows. And if you are on any of my social medias, feel free to send me messages during the month of November and be like, are you working on your Santa pillows? Make sure you're working on your Santa pillows because I need to finish those. So that is one of my, I think this week that is what I'm going to be spending a lot of time in just to get the ball rolling on those. I need to finish the Santa pillows. And then 5th, finish the tweed socks. It's my last pair of Christmas socks for my brothers. Everybody else has their Christmas socks done. And I just have less than 1 sock because I'm on the foot of the 2nd sock. So I'm going to try and finish those socks. If I don't, I'm not worried about finishing them in December. But I really enjoy December being my knitting month where I knit on my projects that make me happy, like my Cozy Memories blanket. And I really want to carry as few Christmas gifts into December as I possibly can. So I'm going to try and finish that pair in November. So those are my goals. We will see how I do. Yeah, like make sure you keep me accountable. I need to finish those, especially the Santa pillows. Especially the Santa, because those are, I think, the hardest to work on. It's a lot of stitches. It's a lot of stranding. It's just, The hippo pieces, once I get back into them, they're very easy to work on and they're enjoyable to work on, but those Santa pillows, they are going to just... Santa pillows. Anyway, that is all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you have a fabulous weekend. And I will talk to you again soon, and hopefully I will have some progress on all those projects. So anyway, talk to you soon. Bye.